Welcome to Animeconomy.
The world you woke up in this morning, it wasn't inevitable. The job you have, the phone in your hand, the very opportunities you see in front of you, they were all forged in the fire of a colossal battle, a war of ideas that has raged for a century and is, believe it or not, still shaping your future. This is the story of that fight, a battle for the world itself. In one corner, you have the state. Think of it as this powerful guardian, built to protect humanity, promising security, order, and control. And in the other corner, you've got the market, the challenger, a wild, chaotic force of nature that promises freedom, opportunity, and, well, a little bit of chaos. For a long, long time, the guardian held all the power. To really get why, we need to rewind the clock. We need to go back to a time when the world was shattered, broken, and desperately looking for someone or something to protect it. Picture it. 1945. World War II is over. Civilization is literally on its knees. Cities are just piles of rubble. Economies are completely shot. And everyone is terrified of another Great Depression. In this moment of total fear, who do you turn to? You turn to your government. The state rose up to seize what they called the commanding heights of the economy. You know, the big stuff: steel, coal, railways. The thinking was, if we control these, we control our destiny. We can protect our people. And nothing shows this better than what happened in Britain. They actually voted out their wartime hero, Winston Churchill himself. Why? Because the other guys, the Labour Party, were promising a new Jerusalem, a society where the government would take care of you from cradle to grave. They nationalized everything: coal mines, airlines, you name it. The Guardian was now completely in charge. And for a few decades, it kind of worked. It brought stability, but by the 1970s, the armor on that great Guardian, it started to rust. The very system that was built to save us began to grind to a halt. It started to fail. And then, boom, a new enemy appears out of nowhere: inflation. I'm talking runaway inflation. Prices were just spiraling. In the UK, it hit 15%. Think about that. That means your life savings, the money you worked so hard for, was just evaporating. Your paycheck was worth less every single week. The Guardian's shield was starting to crack. But then, a monster that no one even thought could exist crawled out of the shadows: stagflation. It was a two-headed beast. See, the economy was stagnant, not growing, so people were losing their jobs. But at the same time, prices were shooting up. It was the absolute worst of both worlds, and all the old weapons the state had, they were useless against it. So people started to lose faith. The Guardian they had trusted for a generation, it now seems like it was actually making things worse. The promise of security was turning into this grim reality of decay and decline. People looked around and thought, this whole system, it's broken. But you know how it goes. When an old power begins to crumble, a new one starts to rise. For decades, a whole different set of ideas had been waiting in the wings, championed by thinkers who everyone else just called radicals. Well, their moment had finally arrived. I'm talking about guys like Friedrich von Hayek, who way back in the 40s warned that too much government control was a road to serfdom. Or Milton Friedman, who flat out said that government was the problem. For years, these guys were on the outside looking in. But when stagflation brought the world to its knees, suddenly people started listening. When Hayek won the Nobel Prize in '74, it wasn't just an award, oh no. It was a signal that the entire intellectual battlefield was about to shift. A brand new idea started to take hold, and it was a radical one. Maybe the Guardian state wasn't the solution. Maybe it was the cage. And maybe, just maybe, the only way to slay that two-headed monster of stagflation was to do something terrifying: to unchain the wild, untamed, powerful force of the market. But look, an idea is just, well, it's just an idea until a champion comes along to wield it like a sword. And in the late 70s and early 80s, two leaders stepped onto the world stage ready to lead the revolution. In the UK, you had Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, who basically declared war on what she called the nanny state. And across the pond in America, you had Ronald Reagan, who famously said, "Government is not the solution to our problem, government is the problem." They had different weapons: privatization for Thatcher, deregulation for Reagan, but their mission was identical: tear down the power of the state and set the market free. By the way, if this story of the epic ideas that shape our reality is hitting home for you, do me a quick favor and hit that like button, and maybe share this with someone who needs to see it. Thatcher's main weapon was this super bold strategy called privatization, and the playbook was actually pretty simple, but totally revolutionary. Step 1, take a huge, clunky, state-owned company, like the phone company or British Airways. Step 2, sell it. Sell the shares right to the public. The whole point was to swap political meddling for the cold, hard, ruthless discipline of market competition. The changes that followed were like a series of massive shockwaves hitting the system. Decades of policy were just thrown out the window in a few short years. State industries were sold off. The power of the big unions was shattered. Taxes were slashed. And that idea of a bottomless public purse that the government could just spend and spend, that was declared over. The challenger wasn't just fighting the Guardian anymore. It was winning. The battle was immense, and it changed the world forever. But now we're living in the quiet aftermath, left with all the consequences of that victory. Because this revolution, it didn't stay in the US and the UK. It went global. From Latin America to Asia to the old Soviet bloc, country after country followed the same playbook. They sold off state companies, they opened their economies. The very frontier between the state and the market was redrawn across the entire planet. We did it. We shattered the old order. We unleashed these incredible forces of growth and innovation. We built a global economy that has lifted billions of people out of poverty. It's an incredible story, but every great power comes with a great risk. So what did we lose? What did we sacrifice when we tore down those old walls? The world we live in now is one of just breathtaking opportunities, but also new and terrifying dangers. For every amazing story of tech progress, there's a story of a financial crisis that can whip around the globe in a matter of hours. For the billions lifted from poverty, there's this growing anxiety about the gap between the super rich and everyone else, and the feeling that those old safety nets that used to protect us, well, they're gone. And that, right there, brings us to the most important point of all. This epic, century-long battle, it isn't over, not by a long shot. The commanding heights of the world economy aren't a piece of land you can conquer once and for all. The fight is always happening. The balance is always shifting. This struggle between our need for security and our desire for freedom, between the guardian and the challenger, between the state and the market, that is the great drama of our time. There's no simple, final answer. There's only the choice that each and every generation has to make for itself. The next chapter of this story, that's up to us to write. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Animeconomy and check the link in the description to get the book.